Good morning, YouTube. This is He Knows His Sport, bringing you that heat and that fire. I want to talk about the Miami Heat versus the Brooklyn Nets. First and foremost, I was utterly disgusted with the fact that LeBron James went to the free throw line 19 times. Not only that, not only did he go to the free throw time 19 times, the Miami Heat took a total of over 40 free throws. This is insane. This is ludicrous. This is what I keep telling everyone. The reason why the Miami Heat wins the game is because of the fact that they go to the free throw lines way more than the other team does. This happens in their favor versus the opposition more than one time. This happens on many occasions. And I'm sick and tired of it. You know, it may come across, oh, you're a Heat basher, or you don't like the Miami Heat. No, that's not the truth. All I'm saying is, if this team is the Heatles that they are, if this team has that big three of LeBron James, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and these guys are supposed to be big time or AKA box office, then the reality is they need to play it as such. They need to have it as a level playing field. These guys shouldn't be having so many more free throw attempts, so many more free throw shots for them to be able to decide the outcome of the game. This is what I kept telling everybody. The NBA is rigged. The Miami Heat are the darlings of the NBA. LeBron James is the golden boy of the NBA. So therefore, the Miami Heat get all the calls that they want. People sit here and they say, oh, LeBron James had 49 points. No, this man had 19 free throw attempts. Of course you're going to have 49 points when you get to go to the free throw line 19 times. I mean, it's just a lot of calls were great defensive possessions. Those were possessions where the Brooklyn Nets played great defense on the man, but because the referee sees that there was some kind of contact, they automatically assumed that it was a foul. This is what I keep saying. This is what's going to happen. This is why the Miami Heat are going to skate to the finals. The reason why they're going to get to the finals is because of the fact. The reason why they're going to get to the finals is because of the fact that they are getting the breadth of the calls. They are able to get, the favoritism that boils their way. Does that take anything away from the fact that Brooklyn also played bad defense? No, because I have to get on the Brooklyn Nets too. They played horrible defense. I didn't like what Brooklyn Nets did. If you ask me, the Brooklyn Nets played like a team that was lethargic. When you're Paul Pierce and you come out and you talk trash and you run your mouth, granted the Miami Heat got over 40 foul calls, which is absurd within itself. The reality is, when you talk trash like Paul Pierce does, and you don't lock the man down, come on. See, that's one thing about basketball. When you run your mouth and you talk trash, you got to be able to back that thing up. I'm a firm believer of that. You're not going to sit here and run your mouth and expect all of a sudden for you to not do what you're supposed to do. So, Paul Pierce, I have to assassinate your character on that. When you run your mouth, you are, on a fine, thin line. The reality is, when you run your mouth, you have to back it up. Otherwise, you look like Boo Boo the Fool. So, I'm not happy with the fact that Paul Pierce said what he said, and then LeBron James goes off for 49 points. Of course, 19 of those were free throw attempts. But the reality is, the other 30 points that he scored, they was mostly scored on Paul Pierce, the guy that was supposed to be putting him on lock and key. He didn't do that. Joe Johnson, the way you played in that first round against the Raptors, where have you been? You haven't shown up in this series. Darren Williams, you get paid $98 million. Where were you? Why haven't you shown up in this series? I have a problem with that. I cannot accept that. To me, that is unacceptable at the highest level, especially when I put my reputation on the line and I pick you. Because see, what people have to understand is there's no such thing as a guaranteed pick. The only reason why my picks don't come out, to turn out into fruition is because of the fact that I'm looking at everything from the fact that the team is going to give it their all, and the team is going to show up the way that they're going to show up. But if the team doesn't show up and they don't give it their all, that's not my fault for me making that pick. Because in all essence, when we make picks based off the fact, okay, this team is going to play at their best. This team is going to give it their all. This team is going to do what they're supposed to do. And I didn't see that from the Brooklyn Nets. And when you're getting paid $98 million from Darren Williams, I know you're not going to give me the Utah days. I've said this in previous video, but give me somewhat of what you were able to do in Utah. At least give me 17.5 points per game. At least give me 8 assists. At least do that. You should be good enough to do that. You shouldn't be letting guys like Mario Chalmers and Norris Cole. Who are those guys? You letting guys like that make you look bad? Making you look like you can't play offense? What's going on? I know you got ankle injuries. You know, I know you had weight issues in the past, but the reality is this, man. I mean, come on. You're getting paid $98 million. There's no excuse for your type of play. Guys like Marcus Thornton, guys like Andre Blatch, guys like Sean Livingston. You know, MT3, I'm not going to be too hard on him because he had some games that, like, for instance, game 3 that had, you know, Brooklyn win 104-90. He showed up in that game. So I'm not going to go so hard against a guy like that because at least he showed up in this series. But Marcus Thornton, where have you been? You know, where's all the good stuff that you were doing in the Raptors series? Where is it now? Sean Livingston, I mean, come on, man. You got the height size on Norris Cole and Mario Chalmers. You know, back their ass down, put them in the post. What's going on with you, man? Making stupid passes? I mean, come on, basketball 101. You don't jump in the air and pass the ball. Who does that? That's retarded. And Andre Blatch, I'm heavily disappointed in you, man, because I talk heavily highly about you. I said that you know how to, you know, have good footwork, you know how to play the big man game, but you've disappeared with all that girth, that size, and that mass, and you sitting there letting a skinny bitty like Chris Bosh do you up the way he's been doing you up. Unacceptable. And Kevin Garnett, you need to retire. I know mentally you want to do certain things, but physically, I mean, come on. You just look like you had anvil crossed pretty much trapped around both of your legs. It looked like they were holding you down because you couldn't move. I could see in your mind you wanted to do this, but it's like your body wouldn't allow you to. My suggestion to you is you need to retire. I'm sorry I'm sounding so harsh, but you gotta lead this game. You're gonna have to retire, sir, because what I'm seeing out there is a bunch of guys that just got pretty much overpaid and they didn't, you know, deliver on their overpaid ways. I'm sorry, I have to call it out for what it is, because I expected better things from you guys. I'm not gonna sit here and just continually, you know, say what I say about the Miami Heat, but the reality is, yeah, the Miami Heat get the favoritism of the cause, but I didn't see Brooklyn. I didn't see you showing up. I didn't see your tenacious ways. I was heavily disappointed. I got silent after that last game to see the Miami Heat coming to your house. They protected their home court. They won their 2 games, and you sat there knowing that Game 4 was a do or die, and you lost 102-96. You need to be ashamed of yourself. You need to go somewhere and hide. You need to go under a rock or something and never show your face again. Because you allowed this series to get away because you couldn't play tenacious basketball. I told you, if you want to beat the Miami Heat, you got to be tenacious. You got to constantly be bringing it to them. And you have to stop their 3-ball game because their basketball game is predicated upon them having Ray Allen, you know, these guys like James Jones, these guys like Shane Battier, these guys like Mario Chalmers hit 3-point shots for them. And even in some, you know, sporadic occasions, LeBron James doing it himself. You got to stop that crap. Utterly disgusted. Utterly ashamed. Let me get to this next series, man. Brooklyn Nets just disappointed me. Let's get to the Indiana Pacers. See, I told everybody that's why I don't trust this team. Because the good things that they do, look what they end up doing. Game 4. You know, I stand corrected because I think in the last video I said that Paul George had 19 points and 12 rebounds. The man had 39 points and 12 rebounds. He had superstar numbers in the last game. And what do they do in Game 5? It's supposed to be a closeout game. You're supposed to be on your home floor. And what do? This is why they can't be trusted. This is why I lost all faith in that team. And the very team that I had faith in, the Brooklyn Nets, now they playing like the Pacers. I mean, what's going on here? I understand the NBA is rigging it for the Miami Heat, but I can't blame rigging on the NBA based on these guys not playing with a sense of urgency, these guys playing with a lack of aggression. I can't blame that on the NBA. That's on you guys for not stepping up and doing what you have to do. Roy Hibbert, I mean, come on. You know, David West, you've been hard on people. You've been pretty consistent, but you stunk it up too last night. Lance Stevenson, George Hill. What's going on with you guys? I don't trust you guys. And to be honest with you, you play against the Miami Heat, you don't deserve to be in the third round. If you ask me, I hope Washington come back and win this series. The way you've been playing, I don't trust you guys. You don't deserve to be in the third round. And if you make it to the third round, I don't see you beating the Heat because you guys don't play tenacious basketball. I would be heavily surprised if you guys would pull an upset on the Miami Heat. Not with the way that you're playing, because the Heat are going to get the calls. But like I said, the only way that you can refute those calls, the only way that you can debunk that is by you playing tenacious basketball. You got to constantly bring it to the Miami Heat. I haven't seen a team since the Dallas Mavericks be able to pull this stuff off. I mean, come on. This is ridiculous. Hats off to the Wizards. Hats off to John Wall, balling like he did, answering the bell, listening to his teammates saying, hey, you're the guy of the team. You're the guy that anchors the team. Hats off to him for doing a great job. Because at the end of the day, I've been quoted saying in the past that John Wall is going to be one of the top point guards in the NBA. So taking nothing away from him, taking nothing away from Bradley Beal, did really good. They did a good job shutting down Nene, but that Martin Gortat, man, the 31 points and them 16 rebounds, my goodness. Him and John Wall was clicking in that game. Hats off to them. They out-rebounded the Pacers 62-23. How do you get out-rebounded by 39 rebounds? 4 things I've always said in the game of basketball that decides the fate of a game. Playing with a sense of urgency on the defensive end, rebounding the ball, executing, and scoring the basketball. If you do these things, it doesn't matter what system you're in, you're going to be successful. And that's what the Washington Wizards did last night. They executed those 4 strategies beautifully. You couldn't execute it more beautifully than what they did last night. And hats off to that team. Now let's get to the next game. OKC versus the LA Clippers. I know a lot of Clippers fans, they're mad, they have an uproar. Doc Rivers yelling at the, Thunder owner, Clay Bennett. And listen, the reality is you lost. You were up 104-97. The overrated CP3 was bumping his chest, doing a LeBron rendition and sitting there acting like he was doing something. And in the last 2.5 minutes, you dropped the ball. The overrated CP3 made those mistakes down the stretch that ultimately cost that game. And I sat there and I was laughing my head off because I even thought in my mind, oh, this game is over. But like the old cliche, it's not over until it's over. You can't celebrate until it was over. I learned my lesson last year in Game 6 when the San Antonio was up 94-89. And then Greg Popovich does the biggest, stupidest thing. He sits down Tim Duncan. And then Chris Bosh gets, the greatest rebound I've ever seen in the finals and had enough high IQ to pass it to Ray Allen and seal the fate. I learned my lesson from that. You can't celebrate that it's over until it's over. And the reality is, OKC won that game. People would sit there and say, well, Chris Paul was fouled on the last play against Reggie Jackson. Please, nobody want to hear that crap. You were too busy losing the game that the referee's not going to give you that. You were up by 7 points. You're supposed to be the best floor general. You're supposed to be the second coming of Isaiah Thomas, CP not. The reality is you weren't CP3. You were CP0. You froze up. You allowed Westbrook to get a steal because you did the biggest no-no that you do in basketball. You don't when somebody's passing the ball to you, you don't jump in the air trying to catch the ball. Come on, now you have to be grounded. Westbrook took advantage of that. See, that's the thing with basketball players. They always make that stupid mistake. They try to pass the ball while they're jumping in the air. Westbrook took that. He picked your pockets. Back, in street ball they call that a book rip. He straight took your book. So the reality is you have to face it for what it is. You got done up. And that's why I kept telling everybody, Russell Westbrook is a better player than CP0. Russell Westbrook is a better player than this guy that they're deeming a superstar, the best floor general we've seen since Isaiah Thomas. I don't want to hear that. CP3 has not done anything to merit anything worthy for him to be considered a superstar. I keep telling everybody he is a simple star. Yes, he's a star player. He does star potential things, but he is not a superstar. because he, for some reason, cannot get out of the second round. Last time I checked, Russell Westbrook has been to a third round. Last time I checked, Russell Westbrook has been to the finals. So based on those merits alone, he is a higher level player than CP3. And in this series, he has beaten CP3 at his own game. He's been a better floor general than CP3. And I dare anyone to challenge me on that, because I'll take him to school on that. People want to sit here and say, oh, CP3 is a better floor general than Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook has beat him at his own game in this series. And if anyone was really watching this series and was really being unbiased and really was dissecting it for what it was, they would see the reality of things. But all in all, I say this to say this. I told everybody, the NBA is going to allow for it to be a potential matchup between the Miami Heat and the OKC. Because all the great things that Russell Westbrook did from out of his own doing, the reality is I got to call it for what it is. Kevin Durant, NBA, they rigged it for him. he gets the same, he gets the second level of treatment. I won't say the same, the second level of treatment behind LeBron James in terms of him getting free throw attempts. All those free throw attempts he got, all those foul calls he got, they weren't really fouls like that. I could sit here and man up and admit it. But he's Kevin Durant. He's the second highest selling jersey, the second number of selling shoes, as of this year reported by the NBA. So he's going to get the second level of favoritism of calls because he's given the NBA the second best numbers that they could get out of any basketball player. So he's going to merit those calls as the number 2 player that he is. He's really number 1, but the NBA is going to consider LeBron number 1 because he won the last 2 titles. But that's another argument within itself. Because at the end of the day, Kevin Durant, however we slice or dice, even though they cheated like crazy for the Miami Heat, however we slice or dice it, he lost to LeBron James. So, therefore, he's second place. I can at least admit that. Even though it was all in a rigging situation, he's second place. So, it is what it is. If I'm Doc Rivers, stop boo-hooing, stop crying about it. Your team's just not good enough. You don't even have the second best player on your team. The 2 best players in that series is Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. So I don't know what you're crying about. I don't even know why you even stepped up to the Thunder owner about that. Come on. They gave you plenty of calls in that game. The reality is you were up by 7 points going into 2.5 minutes left in the game, and you couldn't seal the deal. And OKC took advantage of that. That's not OKC's fault for them seizing the moment. That's not their fault for carpe dieming it. The reality is it's your fault for not using the right X's and O's and the right strategies down the stretch to ensure that your team was in position to win. The reality is CP3 was CP0 and he choked. The reality is everybody else on the Clippers team choked. They made the bad calls. DeAndre Jordan, it started with DeAndre Jordan when he had that moving screen. Everybody's going to sit here and try to say, oh, he wasn't moving. Yes, he was moving. So it is what it is. I mean, you guys could take it to the bank, but OKC won, and they're going to close this team out. I already had OKC winning this series in 6 games, so it is what it is. It just comes to find out that your boy, he knows his sport, and this round is going to get 3 out of the 4 teams right. OKC, San Antonio, and everyone knows the third team that I picked, Indiana, even though I don't trust them, they still going to win the series. But I'm going to have the Brooklyn series with the Miami Heat. I'm going to get that one wrong. But I end up 75%, which at the end of the day is still a great percentage. So this is He Knows His Sport. Checking out.